O'Connor synonym for damnation. But here is the rub. She had read the Brothers Karamazov for the first time at the University of Iowa. And there she came upon this stunning revelation. But she never put this in print. It's my speculation from knowing her great debt to Dostoevsky, that those four brothers are all set in opposition to an utterly despicable father, old Theodore. Three of them want him dead. One of them kills him. And in so doing, they kill God. For in Dostoevsky, parricide always equals deicide. To kill the parent is to kill God, in the sense that we stand in immediate relation to our parents as we stand in ultimate relation to God. Our parents are the very sources of our existence. They may be hard to understand, they may probably are often unlikable, unfair, as God usually is, of course, but you can't kill them. If you kill them, you kill the source.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, exactly. So, here she was, a woman of deep Catholic faith, of serious literary vision and craft, coming back to live this pristine life and tempted by the worst of all sins, the sin of pride against her own mother. And of course, by the killing of the parents, she didn't mean, as in the case of Smerdyakov, slitting old Theodore's neck. You kill your parents in 1,000 ways, usually by neglect. We warehouse our elderly in nursing homes so they quickly grow senile and die. So killing does not mean physical. There are many spiritual ways of committing parricide. And so I think she sees for the first time the person who's really in trouble down here, me, not her. So watch out, almost all of her stories have as their villains intellectuals who had to return home to live under the care of their usually single parents. So she's turning the basket completely upside down, over and again. And that, of course, is the great courage of her writing, where she makes the enemy herself, and not those she can point fingers at and say, you are the person who deserves to get it. So they worked out this magnificent relation where Mrs. O'Connor saw herself as the protectress, look at that right here, of her daughter's life. She had on her hands this figure of major significance, and to let this daughter just live as she wanted to, in the sense of staying up as late as she wanted to, or entertaining friends as often as she wanted to, guarded O'Connor's strength, energy. So O'Connor had a book club that met monthly at her house, but when 10 o'clock came, Mrs. O'Connor would descend the stairs, as if to say, eggheads, it's time to go to bed. I have a daughter, her name is Flannery. We don't let her stay up to midnight and be worn out the next morning and be unable to write. She famously said that she read Aquinas 20 minutes every night before bed. If you've read Aquinas, you know that's not bedtime reading. She says she could envision her mother coming into her room and saying, okay, Flannery, it's time to go to bed. Turn the light out. And I sang, sed contra. Light being eternal cannot be put out. And then she added, or some such nonsense as that. So she makes fun of her mother, makes fun of herself, and she said she dearly wished she could have a dog as her pet, so she could say to her dog, out, damn spot. Her mother did not know the reference. So I love this picture of O'Connor. This is 1960, that's 57 Ford, y'all recognize that. 1958 or 9. She's on crutches, she's still strong enough. She's looking upon a peacock here, now using crutches. Some stupid reporter once asked her, Miss O'Connor, does your illness affect your writing? That's about stupid. She said, no, since for that I use my head and not my feet. Oh, sorry. I did not do that. One more. I thought I had her gravestone here. I don't. But she's buried there in the local cemetery right beside her father and now with her mother Addie. Just a few things, because you did not get this little sketch of her leading concerns. I was going to have it sent out.
It's in the packet on the second page.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, just a few things about her. I've said most of this here already. We now have seen O'Connor's recovered her prayer journal, published when she was at Iowa. Haven't you had a chance to read that and see what hand to remarkable one. For this young woman who's only 20, 21, 22 is pouring out her heart in the least pious way possible. She hated piosity. So get used to it. She says sentimentality is to Christianity as pornography is to art. So any form of faith that's sweet and comforting and easy, that you can be easily aroused to warm feelings and sweet emotions, is pornographic. And art, of course, that does the same thing is equally so. So, she was later to say about her Catholicism, I am a Catholic not the way someone else would be a Baptist or a Methodist. I'm a Catholic the way somebody else would be an atheist. Because remember, atheists cannot forgive God for not existing. Atheists are God-botherers. You have to be really convinced to be a serious atheist. And so she said, my faith is not background noise in my life. It's not the muzak. It's not the wall painting. It's the center of my existence. A famous story about her existence as a Catholic comes forth from a dinner party she attended, hosted by Robert Lowell and his sometime wife at a very hoity-toity New York occasion. And Mary McCarthy was a guest there, who had just written a book called Memoirs of a Catholic Childhood, whose basic thesis is how I outgrew the Catholic Church. I became too small for me. But she said, you know, I still find certain Catholic images worth hanging on to. She said, for example, bread and wine have a kind of cultural resonance, and therefore they are convenient symbols for me. Flannery O'Connor was not one who liked to make eye contact. She did not like to speak unless first spoken to, and least of all among a bunch of pretentious intellectuals. She rose up from her chair and said, if the Eucharist is only a symbol, then I say to hell with it. And sank back into her chair. You talk about a conversation stopper. You know, Bill Buckley used to say, if you mention God once at New York dinner party, people will stare at you. Mention God twice, you won't be invited back. So, just totally without pretense. So many funny things. She went to a book club one time that her mother belonged to. You know, book clubs are made up of people like talk about books they have not read. Have you ever discovered that? And so the ladies were going around about the most influential books in their lives. One said Milton's Paradise Lost, another said Shakespeare's play, another said Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. When it came to Flannery's time, she said, the Sears and Roebuck catalog is the most influential book in my life. Because, of course, that's where you had your wish list. You didn't have malls, you didn't have online shopping. You had how many of you know what Sears and Roebuck catalog is? Good. It's important to note where Mary Grace the figure in our story went to school, Wellesley. Flannery O'Connor's very close friend, Mariette Lee, was a Wellesley graduate and was always, if you read the correspondence, teasing O'Connor about what a redneck she was, about what a hick she was, about what a mackerel snapper she was. And O'Connor would get it right back in full force. And therefore, when she got the chance to make fun of Wellesley, as she does in this story, she took it. Anyone know what other famous person is a graduate of Wellesley?
Wait, what's that right?
Hillary Rodham. Someone asked me what could be more pretentious name than that. I said Sackville Bagginses. Because after all, a lot of Clinton doesn't have a hyphen. Her early fiction is satirical, but it's satirical of secular things. I looked at some of her undergraduate stories, and she takes out after two enemies there. One, the new reign of the automobile. She sees the automobile as the new American dream machine. Now you get in your car and take off and leave it all behind, strike out for the West like Huck Finn. The Airstream trailer, says Walker Percy, is the Conestoga wagon of our culture. And she disliked that kind of movie. Comments or questions, please interrupt me. But she also saw this new fad for health as the new god of our culture. Where everybody wants to be healthy. Someone says, you know, the purpose of life is to die healthy. No. No. The purpose of life is to die well. And so we had all of these remedies that were over-the-counter remedies. The most famous of all was called Hadacol. Anyone remember? No one's old enough to remember Hadacol. Hadacol was an over-the-counter remedy for the common cold, C-O-L-D, which of course has no remedy. But if you took this medicine, you would be able to say, I had a cold. It was 15% alcohol. So in my dry home county, a lot of people had a lot of colds. A lot of had a cold. But she begins to see this mania for staying alive at all costs. When she would say death is the most important place that life offers us. It is the telos, it is the end, it is the aim for which we are all moving. And she loved the parable of the talents. She said at the end, we return our lives empty. Nothing. Or else we return our lives full. Our gifts multiplied and return to the God who has given them to us. So death for her was the aim and purpose of life. You may know that the saints are rarely, if ever, celebrated on their birthdays. Doesn't matter when you're born. They're celebrated on their death days. What matters is how we die. This is the best line about cars. You know it from. Don't read White Blood until it's the last book of O'Connor's you ever read. It's in many ways the most brilliant and the most difficult. And Moats gets off a great line. Nobody with a good car needs to be justified by Jesus. And here's one about death I like. A character observes, the monks of old slept in their coffins, to which another replied, yeah, they wasn't as advanced as we are. She said, death has always been a brother to my imagination. I can't imagine many good stories that don't end in death. Death is not the enemy, but the enemy to be overcome. So, things about her life in Iowa. The only thing that's important in this statement is when she was asked about the preeminence of the South in the early 20th century America, where the literary center shifts from New England to the American South. And we produced William Faulkner, we produced Tennessee Williams, Eudora Welty, Walker Percy, Flannery O'Connor, Allen Tate, John Crow Ransom, on and on and on. She says the answer is simple. It's because we lost the wall. And this, by the way, coast means the wall between the states. Or as it's sometimes referred to, the late unpleasantness. That's, of course, in the South. But what she meant was, of course, that prior to Vietnam, this is stunning, prior to Vietnam, Americans had never been defeated in battle. Except one, the Southerners. Southerners have been defeated in battle on their own home turf in defense of an indefensible cause. And so she said the tragic vision is present in the South. New England knows next to nothing of the tragic vision, except in its really great writers like, of course, Hawthorne and Melville and company, but not in its popular culture. I'm going to fly on through this, since you had it already under. This is one of the most moving of her lines, this one here, when she says, the true measure of a writer is the local and the particular, because it takes the measure on it. She says, in a strange place, you make up reality to be whatever you want it to be. You can be totally anonymous in New York City, responsible to no one, as we all are on the internet. She says, and right toward the end, my best work has been done here, the place I hated to come back home. You see the irony, the gracious irony. Something I've already said, I don't want to go over this again. About her illness, I urge you to read her letters. A nice snatch of them is present in that volume, but the bigger collection is called The Habit of Being. I urge you to read, mark, learn, and inwardly digest that great text, The Habit of Being, 500 pages. When it came out, Suzanne and I fought over it every night. Who would get to read the letters? They are unbelievably rich. Funny as all get out. Pensive, perceptive, full of her good Southern slang, and refusing to make her illness the defining center of her life. See, in our culture, if you have any quote-unquote disability, it becomes the center of your existence. Everything else is defined in terms of your disability. She said, my illness is a nuisance. Chiefly, it's a nuisance. But what she said I most like is this thing. With one eye squinted, I can take it all as a blessing. Hear that? That's the perfect balance of faith and doubt. Now, oh, thank you, Lord, for giving me lupus. I'm a better person, therefore. No. Yeah, I guess so. Really good. But then this deeply moving line. Again, a woman dying writes, I've never been anywhere in life that it wasn't the place I was supposed to be. No matter how it looked to me at the time. Then this letter is virtually the last one that she wrote. She loves bad grammar. Pray the lupus don't finish me off too quick. She dies at 39. Manners are very important for O'Connor. Manners have been called obedience to the unenforceable. Things that cannot be mandated by law, but that can be inculcated in us as a way of guarding each other from our own massive egoism. So watch out for the manners and the black help in this story. How the black treat Ruby Turpin. It's with consummate black signifying. It's the art of saying one thing and meaning absolutely the opposite, but saying it so nicely you can't possibly hold anybody accountable for it. So she felt that integration would fail, as it has failed, let's be honest, because we didn't take the time to develop a set of manners by which people of radically different cultures, races, economic backgrounds, and the like, could learn how to live in common. by simply mannered self-restraint. Not loving somebody, not grabbing them by the neck and hugging them, but having a sense of their dignity so that you know they are not to be violated. They're in the same public space you are, we are, and therefore let us do it together. She was a gradualist about race. Be O'Connor about it. Be honest about it. But look what Alice Walker says. Alice Walker was brought up right across the road from Flannery O'Connor. And people complained about how O'Connor has blacks in glorious positions. She said, look, Flannery O'Connor never tries to enter the mind of a black person because she doesn't know what's going on there. However, that's not the point. She is about race. Not about race, but about grace. So I'll go ahead and treat this line. Can you all see it? From our story. Remember, Ruby Turpin is so wounded about what happens to her in the doctor's office. She comes back to the farm seeking consolation. She says, Claude, kiss me! And Claude kisses her and doesn't do any good. So she goes down to the place where the blacks live. They've just been brought back from the cotton fields. And she tells them what has happened to her, what they called her. You old warthog, go back to hell where you came from. And they say, no, she didn't say nothing like that to you. Why, you pretty. You're the prettiest white lady I ever knowed. What an insult. The prettiest white lady. In other words, tons of others, but